All right, Patrick Daugherty is here. I just saw a headline from John Oran that NBC has sold out or is close to selling out their Super Bowl ads. I assume that's under your umbrella.
Well, that's why I'm allowed to do the show today. Because if I had not
you got the inventory out?
I got the inventory out. If I had not sold the last Jurassic World Rebirth 2 ad, I was not allowed to do any podcasts this week. So that's how I'm here.
Congratulations on everything, on all your success. What quarter is the Roto World Football Show commercial airing at the Super Bowl? Just you and Denny.
We are insisting between the first and second quarter because the game's not over yet. Even if it's a blowout, people are still tuned in. Maximum viewership. The budget is really spiking for the Roto World Football. We're going to $5 million per episode next year. So we think between the first and second
Friends.
quarter.
It's like Friends. You guys negotiated it with each other.
We did.
And every episode you get millions of dollars last season. That means last season, just like Friends.
Will lead to our demise, but we're doing it anyway.
Great. Will he, won't he kind of deal. Will they, won't they? It's a deal just like Friends. A couple headlines real quick. Kirk Cousins is going to report to Falcons mandatory minicamp. Mandatory minicamp is getting faker every year. I saw there were a couple teams that only do 1 day of it. And some teams used to do 2. And then if they liked the way the practice is going, they would cut guys loose a day early. It's getting faker every year, but Kirk Cousins seems like the type of guy who's not going to rock the boat. He's not like, what does a Kirk Cousins protest even look like?
That's a good point. Yeah. Mandatory minicamp is no longer neither mandatory nor a mini camp. And Kirk Cousins
it's increasingly many, actually. It's too many.
It was almost poignant because you could see Kirk wanted to rock the boat.
Yeah.
Or at least his agent leaked. I don't think he's going to be there. I don't think he's going to come. And like he has genuinely no reason to be there. Like he should objectively not be there. He needs to be power playing the Falcons. I mean, power plays a bit rich for a guy who's the number 2 quarterback, but he should not be there. But he's such a rules follower that he cannot help but attend the mandatory 1 day Falcons minicamp.
I will say though, the TJ Watt situation surprises me that he's escalating that. And you know, it's all different. Because OTAs are completely different, and Cousins had skipped the OTAs, and that was part of it. But it's not mandatory. It's not mandatory OTAs. This is the only thing. And so to escalate it this week, TJ Watt doing that, Trey Hendrickson, who's been skipping everything. I saw a headline there that was like Trey Hendrickson skipping minicamps. Well, he showed up to OTAs in golf clothes and said he hated the organization and took a shot at the owners. I could have reported that. Bill Simmons used to have this really funny bit where he would just be like, it would be an awful first round NBA loss, and he would just sources so-and-so is fired. Sources, Trey Hendrickson still not happy with the Bengals.
No. Trey Hendrickson, I think at this point is honestly trying to set a Guinness World Record for world's longest trade demand. And then he could set several, because then if someone else has a longer trade demand, he could still, then I had the world's longest unsuccessful trade demand. And where there could be many offshoots of his world record.
I was thinking about something the other day. Remember when Russell Wilson just wanted out for 5 years?
Yes. And
Aaron Rodgers too for 2 years, yep. But that was my whole thing. And I've had this theory, and everybody, sometimes I say it and people are like, you dumbass. And I'm like, well, prove me wrong. No NFL team has ever traded a guy they wanted to keep.
No. Not once.
It's never happened.
It's never happened. Once. Truly,
it's literally never happened. And even what's funny is that the Niners almost traded Brandon Ayuk a couple years ago, and then they signed him to a huge deal, and then it turned out they actually didn't want to keep him. They signed him to a massive extension, and they were like, please take this guy off our hands if you could.
They signed him to a massive extension, and the first move then after that was kind of to de-emphasize him in the offense. Shanny, he's got a lot going on.
It's he drew up the playbook, assuming the trade went through, and then was just I'm not changing the playbook.
There's a lot going on in Shanny's brain, the biggest brain in the history of the NFL.
I don't, because I kind of like player empowerment, but I do find it funny when NFL teams are like, thank you for the suggestion. We're not trading you for 3 years.
The Trey Hendrickson thing is getting almost sad. It is getting sad. They need to pity trade him at this point.
Well, the owner's daughter, Katie Blackburn, who I guess is, she's in the front office. I don't know how to describe her. She's not the owner. I don't mean to dismiss it, but I say she's involved with the team. I'm not trying to be dismissive. I just don't know what her.
Well, no one's ever also once known the actual power structure in the Bengals front office, by the way.
Yeah, right. And the hierarchy of their 5 scouts.
Yes. Yeah.
But Katie Blackburn was like, well, at some point he's got to just be happy with the offer. It's like, well, he's not, because you're offering him like $9 million less than the guys who get as many sacks as him. So I don't know if this is a be where your feet are situation with the contract.
That was the most boss quote I've ever heard. Well, at some point they just have to be happy. Like putting in, that sounds like almost like put into or should have been put into Chat GPT. Should I say this? And
then you get the little Microsoft Clippy thing being like, are you sure? Are you sure you want to say this insane thing about the guy who has 48% of your sacks?
You can say this in your brain, but don't say it out loud.
All right. We're going to do top GMs. So Mina and I did top GMs a couple weeks ago. We did a top 5. You do all 32, but you don't rank any of the new people.
Yes.
Let's quickly rank the new people. Is James Gladstone good?
Well, that's the thing. And again, anytime now someone has any sort of verbal slip up or verbal quirks whatsoever, they start getting compared to AI. But the James Gladstone like press conferences, as I put in the article, when he speaks, it sounds kind of like AI attempting to translate, I would say, millennial English into Zoomer English. Like this is already like tortured millennial speak. Let's make it even more tortured and nonsensical. And that's kind of the vibes I get from James Gladstone when he's speaking. Like he wants to sound like a cutting edge, like tech bro. You know, he looks a little bit like a tech bro. Like, I don't know, dude. Like even the most sophisticated NFL front office would be like the least sophisticated tech or Wall Street like operation of all time. So you need to just move on from this idea, like conception of yourself, James. Like you're a football guy. Just way more cliches, or at least football cliches. We need football cliches from you, not tech cliches. But he's just a Jags GM so far. He's a replacement level Jags GM where like his default setting is like, what's the biggest thing we can do? And like, well, doesn't make any sense. You don't ask that. They just like, what's the biggest thing we can do? And then they do that. So
he's an upgrade over Balky because Balky was actively staging a coup at all times during his his reign there. It was just a destructive force, and it reminded me a little bit of Bruce Allen with Washington.
Yes, great comparison.
You actually had to get him out of the building because every time it was like, he's only in this role, and it's like, no, you have to get him off the property. You have to get him 500 feet away from Everbank Field at all times, or else he's going to find a way to get back into power. And remember the last time when Snyder was
Santa
like,
Ana.
Remember the last time that Snyder was like, we're not firing Bruce. We're just going to like reassign him harder than anyone's ever been reassigned.
Yes.
And the fan base instantly knew what that meant and basically staged a riot. And then he had to fire him. So it was like Balky is out of the building, not reassigned, not put into a different deal. He is Gladstone being here now is instantly an upgrade.
Yes.
Instantly an upgrade. Okay. Now I'm wondering, the only thing I'm wondering, and Travis Hunter is going to be awesome, and Tootin is going to be awesome. I like their drafts. The only thing is, when I heard that quote about how he's uniquely equipped to like trade up and be aggressive.
No.
When like Eric DeCosta and Howie Roseman, all these guys are like, nobody knows anything. We're just going to take a bunch of swings at the ball and just kind of maximize our chances at being good and all that stuff. Like, I just think when you say, trust me, I can be aggressive, that raises some red flags for me, but not enough where I'm like, oh, this is going to be a disaster. Like, no, I don't know. It's just the one thing I was like, interesting.
Well, when he said he knew about that too, like, obviously he was not making any of those decisions in Los Angeles and not even sure if he was even like party to them. Like when he was saying, trust me, like I have experience with this, what he literally meant, like, I'm not even trying to say this as a joke. Like he had experience being in a room. Like he was in a room when those things happened. I like severely doubt he was in any way involved with the process. Like,
he was noticing. He was just noticing. He was an observer.
He was. I would love to be in the room when that went down. He did do that. He was the guy who was in the room for something, but he was literally just in the room. That was all he did.
He's from St. Louis. Did you have any?
I do not have any James Gladstone connection. Okay. I'm not too proud to admit. I searched James Gladstone on the website. No one uses anymore, known as Facebook. Except for everyone uses it. Apparently,
did you have like two?
No mutual friends. I was pretty surprised. Is
the guy Ollie Marmol still the Cardinals manager?
He is. Yep.
I got some. I did that with him. He's from Orlando. I have a couple.
Look at you. Gladstone, by the way, to take it back to football, his whole bet is that he has a franchise player. And like what he did makes sense if he does actually have a franchise player. They of course have someone paid like a franchise player. But if it's going to be a very painful first-year team building lesson if Trevor Lawrence is indeed not a franchise player. And every move is saying we have a franchise player. Whereas, do we really know if they have a franchise player?
Well, can I play devil's advocate here for a second?
Yes.
As someone who looks vaguely like James Gladstone, I have to defend him. Do you have a choice? Like I've thought about this. I've gone back and forth on this because the best teams are the teams that draft a rookie quarterback and then immediately act like he's a franchise quarterback and are just like, screw it, we're going all in. The worst teams are like, we're going to spend 2 years finding out if this guy's a franchise quarterback. And then in year 3, we're going to get him a wide receiver with arms. Okay. That's what we're going to do. We're going to investigate and see if we could get a possibly good receiver in year 3, but we don't want to rush this thing. And so my feeling is like, if Trevor Lawrence is not the guy that anyone thinks he is, then you're screwed already.
Screwed anyways,
and you're going to have to do a hard reset anyway. You're not going to move off of him. And so you have to do, at the very least, a competitive rebuild anyway, which would be taking guys like Travis Hunter, like, and injecting talent all around him. So, like, I don't think you have a choice when you have a guy, whether it's the top 10 pick or a guy on a mega second deal, of which Trevor Lawrence is both. I don't think you have a choice but to go all in. And I know that we are sitting here going, I don't know, analytically. I think that it's like, I don't know what other choice he has. He can't get out of the contract this year. He's better than a player you would want to get out of the contract. I just don't, he's obviously not, he hasn't produced to level like a CJ Stroud 2 years ago. He hasn't produced to a Jaden Daniels. He hasn't had that kind of year. We think he has that capability, but I think the only option he had was let's maximize the team we have right now.
You just had a super rare podcast moment where it's pretty rare to just make a point so good that it just instantly obliterates the 5 points that were made before that. But you just did that. He really did.
Some made by myself.
Yeah, true. Yeah, you were debating yourself, but
yeah. Mike Berganzi, we agree on this. It just is Cam Ward good? I think he is, but once then it's like. DK, the Florida receiver, will probably end up being good. Restrepo is probably going to be good. Calvin Ridley, somehow they'll salvage that. Like everything, what's the phrase? Like quarterbacks are the deodorant of the franchise. Like everything, great. Oh, cool. Everything works out. The line that's like needs tons of improvement. It's going to look great behind a guy who gets rid of the ball in half a second. John Spytek, again, don't know much about him. I also like the Genti pick was fine. So the Geno Smith was good. Trade was good. Just don't know who's in charge of what there. No. And then the Jets guy. I don't know.
Like the Jets guys they all had pretty good off seasons. All these new guys. Gladstone had the shakiest one. Spytek, even if it's Pete Carroll, it doesn't matter. Accumulate picks, spreading them out between position groups. Best player available at number 6. Cannot quibble with what the Raiders did. The Jets too. The Jets are kind of almost like the Jaguars. Like, we got to get Balky out of the building. That was the Jets. The Jets is like, we need one normal offseason. Like, it doesn't really matter how we get it. Like, we have to avoid like get rich quick schemes this year. Yeah. Just like be a normal football team, not even for a year, just be a normal football team for 3 months. And they accomplished that where they approached the roster like soberly. They understand they're not contending right now. Just go by the book. The Jets went by the book. And that was kind of their only choice this offseason.
We can keep this in the episode. Can you hear my son banging and screaming with what I assume to be a baseball bat outside my door as loud as possible?
I cannot.
You cannot hear that.
One gifted to him by Facebook mutual Ali Marmol, signed by Ali.
My son. A couple of things about my son in baseball. Number one, he's the only baseball fan in America under 40. Number two is he refuses to take off his Yankee hat anywhere, including Boston, Massachusetts, where we were 2 weeks ago.
Very curious. You're texting me baseball's dying, and yet your own son is already
He's bringing
it
back. Huh? He's bringing it back. But then the other thing about him is that we were gifted a Mets bat for Teddy's second birthday. And then at a Red Sox game, we bought a Red Sox ball. So literally, he walks around with a Red Sox ball, a Mets bat, and a Yankees hat. And it is the most psychotic thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And it's just the joy of being a toddler.
He's really bringing it back because that is how you do it. In the 90s, I was a Cardinals mega fan, but I had head-to-toe Colorado Rocky and Florida Marlin outfits because they were the new teams.
Don't point at me saying Florida Marlins like I'm in charge of that. Sometimes I was at my mom's house a couple weeks ago and I found an old photo book, and it's like I have one of the picture days. I'm just in an incredibly awesome Phoenix Sun shirt,
dude. Yes.
And like I could not have been Mr. Magic more. I have so many photos of me with the players as a kid. I went to like probably 30 of the 41 home games once I was able to stay up that late, and yet. Picture day, I was like, give me that Phoenix Sun shirt.
You know why that's a lost art? Why kids don't wear other American sports team apparel than the teams they root for? Is because now they just all wear European soccer apparel.
Yeah, instead. That's true. That's true. All right, we're off. So the Jets guy.
Do you not say this guy's name, by the way?
Darren Mogi, right?
I don't know. I have no idea. I've just written it a bunch. I have no idea.
All right. No, here's what we're going to do. We're going to rank random Jets GM since Mike Tannenbaum got fired. Right. John Idzik, Mike McCagnon, Joe Douglas, Big Darren. I feel like he's going to be...
Big Darren's number one already.
They're all bad. They're all bad. He's going to be the best.
His direct three predecessors, as I write in this write-up, none of them won more than 30... None of them had better than a 375 winning percentage. And none of them...
Is that true?
Yes, it's true. And none of them won a single playoff game. Like, almost no way he's not the best of the four.
Oh boy. All right. Those are the new guys. Do we hit everybody?
We did.
All right. Joe Schoen with the Giants. Explain why he's your worst. You will get no pushback here. Explain why he's your worst of the guys you ranked.
Well, the thing with Joe Schoen and anyone who's the worst right now is you do have to put the caveat. The worst GM now is so much better than the worst GM from 10 years ago.
We've talked about that.
Yes, we have talked about this.
I legitimately think that I used to ask questions to GMs about like the cap, and they'd be like, buddy,
what?
Buddy, you're asking the wrong guy. You're asking the wrong guy. And now that is not the case. Everybody, the floor is so much higher. Same with coaches, by the way.
No, absolutely. The decision-making processes have just gotten so better all across the NFL. I don't even think, like, he wasn't even fun to write about as the last guy because he hasn't done anything insane. He hasn't done anything super bad, but he inherited not a great situation, a situation where he, quote, had to pay Daniel Jones. Everyone knew it was going to be a disaster. It was a disaster. They've gone from 9 wins to 6 wins to 3 wins, his 3 years on the job. Because it's hard to point to individual terrible Joe Schoen decisions, but the roster's inarguably gotten worse. The problems have gotten bigger. He hasn't really, I don't think he got close to fixing or solving his problems this offseason. And it just he's gotten worse the whole time, and that he's probably going to be fired. Like, he's just not going to be around. And I don't really see how Joe Schoen saves his job. And It might not be fair to him, but listen, the NFL, you get dealt a bad situation. It might be unfair. Maybe you'd be a Hall of Fame GM somewhere else, but people do get dealt bad situations and turn them around. He got dealt a horrible situation and has not come close to turning it around. And when the solution is like the number 25 overall pick quarterback, like the Kenny Pickett Hail Mary, it doesn't work.
All right. So I agree with you. I think the only way for him to save his job is if Jackson Dart looks really good, which is not out of the question. But signing Jameis Winston, then Russell Wilson, it just seemed like they were it seemed a little Madden-ish, frankly. We're just like, I don't know, let's just get bodies here. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And Tommy DeVito is still there.
It's the least ambitious plan ever. The plan is to go 7-10 and 8 or 9. I think he genuinely does not want to play Jackson Dart. I think he's basically trying to buy. I think his pitch.
But isn't 7-10 still fired?
I think so. But I think his pitch, his dream is 7-10 or 8-9 this year. Then the real rebuild begins next year, guys. See, like, this isn't actually the real rebuild.
Couple of things. I do feel like this is the first year where we've been able to do the 17 game add up in our head seamlessly. Yes. It's like when you stop writing the previous year on your checks.
yes.
So there's that. I think that anything that is not Jackson Dart looking good gets them fired, unless they win 10 games, which they're not going to. The other thing is, and this is my big Joe Schoen point. First of all, Giants fans crucified me months ago when I said Dave Gettleman brought in better players into the NFL in the draft than Joe Schoen and became a national punchline for it. And everybody's like, now you're talking crazy. Haven't you seen? First of all, their draft class last year was hugely overrated because it was graded against other Joe Schoen drafts. So you got Tyler Nubin, who looks like he can play in the NFL, is really good, but is a good draft pick. But let's not pretend that this was the 2011 Seahawks here. Okay. This is not 2012, that whole crowd. Okay. That wasn't that. It was that Joe Schoen finally had a good NFL draft. And the other point that's so funny that I've heard Giants fans say, or people charitable to Schoen, is the Saquon move was smart by the Giants because he would have been so bad on the Giants because of how bad the team is. And I go, so that's the defense of Joe Schoen, is that he built a team so bad that the most dynamic offensive player in the conference would have looked awful. That's where we're going with that.
Guys, our roster's so bad.
I was just checking.
Our roster's so bad.
The good players don't matter. Yeah. The good players do not matter on this team. FYI.
That they can instantly, he's a Hall of Famer the second he gets away from our team. But on our team, he's not that.
All right. I'm going to disagree with you on Dan Morgan. And by the way, we're not going 28 through 1. I'm going to disagree with you on Dan Morgan and make it quick.
All right.
Dealt a bad hand, no talent there.
0.
Self-aware rebuild, not hitting the accelerator button. Like, they're not trying to rush this thing. They've done everything right to me. But I don't, you can push back on my pushback.
No, I don't have a huge pushback on that. But Dan Morgan's a guy where it's kind of like, how do you even rank him? Because I feel like he's in the Andrew Berry zone.
No, but here's the problem. He's not in the Andrew Berry zone. Elliott Wolf. I'm assuming he doesn't even have any power anymore because when Mike Vrabel brings in Ryan Cowden, Mike Vrabel runs the draft, okay? But Elliott Wolf's draft last year was awful, with the exception of
Drake It was awful, but except for the only part that mattered. So, like, no one even cares if you draft someone who looks...
Bro, and then he put them behind the worst offensive line I've ever seen.
He did.
So, like, what are we doing?
I don't know.
And then Chris Ballard...
Listen.
Was Chris Ballard, like, number 1 on this list, like, 4 years ago?
No, he was probably... Okay. I think in, like, 2019, he was probably, like, number 6. I think he peaked around 6 or 7.
Has it? I'm going to let you take this anywhere you want. Right. So anyway, my point being is Dan Morgan is better than Elliott Wolf. He's better than Terry Fontenot. He's better than Ryan Poles.
Fontenot and Poles get a little... They have big ideas. No one can accuse them of not having big ideas. Have any of them worked? No. But they have big ideas. They have big ideas.
All right. So Wolf is bad. I don't want to debate him very much. The Colts...
Listen,
I'm just gonna leave this open-ended. Okay, he's 25th on your list. Has it ever been more over for anybody than everybody associated with the Colts this year?
No. It's could not be more over. And the only way it's not over for Chris Ballard at the very beginning, but when Jim Irsay was interfering the least, Chris Ballard was very famous for like turning over every rock, basically. Like, oh, here's a cool undrafted free agent, or I think he did some stuff like he signed a restricted free agent. Like he was like finding nooks and crannies talent, basically. Yeah. That went away.
Habitual line stepper.
Yes, he was. And then Irsay, it just seemed like he crept in a little more each year, to the point where he was literally forcing Chris Ballard to hire Jeff Saturday midseason. And maybe Ballard was just lucky the first few years. Maybe Irsay was interfering that whole time and we just didn't know. I mean, I'm sure he kind of was. But there is a scenario where Chris Ballard, where the second He's clearly running the front office all by himself this year. Like he's back to like the real Chris Ballard. But when you're ranked at 25, yeah, he's in the zone. Basically, the final 5 or 6 GMs, I'll say, yeah, he's probably going to be fired. Like he's in the he's probably going to be fired zone.
Anthony Richardson is hurt now, and he's getting second opinions.
It's more than second. He's getting like second opinions on the second opinion.
But what's funny about the way the Colts ran Anthony Richardson is they drafted him. The coach was there. The GM was there. And every single time Shane Steichen is asked about him, he could not be more dismissive. Like when he was benched the first time, they were like, hey, because Bryce Young was like, hey, we're going to let Bryce Young sit for a month, see what's what, all that stuff, right? And then the only reason he got back in was because Andy Dalton got in a car accident and then he was able to resurrect his career. But it was marketed differently than Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson, they were like, was he ever going to play again for the Colts? And Steichen was like, I'd love that for him. That'd be so...
That would be awesome.
Well, that would be cool. That would be great. But it wasn't like Anthony Richardson is our guy. It was more like, what a journey that would be for him. I love that for him.
It's like they showed Shane Steichen and now this video. Like, what if Anthony Richardson became the Colts starting quarterback?
So now it's the same. It's like, well, we're hopeful. But then it's like Patrick Claybon from NFL Network stumbled upon something recently, which was that every time an Anthony Richardson clip was shared by the Colts on social media, they immediately shared a Daniel Jones one. It was like equal time. Like clearly there's an organizational push for Daniel Jones. Yes. They gave him $14 million.
Yes.
There's an organizational push. They gave him $500,000 less than Aaron Rodgers is making. So organizationally, there's a push for Daniel Jones to be the guy, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. I wonder how real the Richardson injury even is. Like if they're already giving everyone a dignified way out of this mess and like, listen, man, like we're not gonna let you look bad this year. You'll be gone next year. Maybe people can still like let their imaginations run wild.
It's like agents who tell their players not to run at the combine.
Yes.
Just make up a hamstring injury. Yes. Just like, hey man, just to preserve your stock for next year, you're gonna have a shoulder injury.
Yes.
And it's so bad that we're gonna leak that you're not even Dr. Neil El Attaché can fix you.
Delightful New Yorker profile on Dr. Neil, by the way.
Did not read it.
You should read it. I can give you my password if you need it.
It's over. It's over for the Colts. Terry Fontenot. I like him personally. He's a very nice person, engaging. I think he's well thought out. I think he comes from a New Orleans front office where they're very aggressive, and I understand that. The New Orleans thing worked because they had Drew Brees and Sean Payton.
Yes.
Okay. The Falcons have been operating every single move as if they're one move away from the Super Bowl.
Yes.
When they are conservatively 12 moves away. 13. Like how many moves away? Like that'd be a good offseason thing. Is like how many moves away are you from a Super Bowl contention? Like it's not one.
No.
It's not James Pierce. It wasn't Michael Penix. It wasn't Kirk Cousins. And I don't even think they've done all this stuff. I don't even think they're runaway favorites for the division, in my opinion.
I was going to say, charitably, if we want to get inside Terry Fontenot's mind, he probably knows he's not one move away from the Super Bowl. He could reasonably convince himself he's one move away from the NFC South, which saves him his job, which buys him time. And trading a future first rounder for James Pierce, though, that doesn't buy you time. I don't know what that does. That not since Marcus Davenport and the Saints.
Yeah.
Has such a move been attempted. And that was still like number 14 at least, not number 26. One of the single most insane move. It was the most insane move I had seen since the year prior when the Falcons took at number 8. He's thinking big. Listen, Bill Belichick, the stock has been falling. Still hiring Raheem Morris over Bill Belichick. I don't know, guys. I don't know.
Ryan Poles at 23. I broadly agree with this. You call him the big ideas GM and you trademark it there.
I do.
I think he's the cousin of the Elliott Wolf thing, where you got the quarterback who was a no-brainer at your slot, and then you built a dog crap offensive line in front of him.
Inexcusable.
And then it's actually the exact same thing, except Poles had more years to do something than Elliott Wolf did. And then now the coach is here, and the coach is like, do you remember that? I think it was Jimmy Fallon, the SNL skit where he was like the annoying IT guy.
Oh, yeah.
Who would tell the guy what to do.
I think Nick,
and then
your company's computer guy.
Yeah. And then they couldn't figure it out, and he would just go, move, and he'd roll his eyes. That's what Mike Vrabel and Ben Johnson are doing to their respective GMs. Just like, oh, you can't build a professional roster? Okay, you get to stay, but you just move your chair over. I've got the keyboard now. And so Ryan Poles has a legitimate chance to have a long career as a GM by just letting Ben Johnson do the heavy lifting.
Could not agree more. And one reason Ryan Poles is ranked, so he's still ranked in the could easily be fired zone, but if you were doing a 5-point plan to save your own career, you're Ryan Poles in January 2025. Bullet point number 1 would have probably been hire Ben Johnson. So he deserves a little credit for somehow convincing Ben Johnson to come, or Bears ownership, whoever did it. If I were in his shoes, the first thing I would have done to try to save my job is to hire Ben Johnson. But I do mention in the write-up, Ben Johnson, he's in the McDaniel zone. He power playing offensive coordinator. There's no way he didn't take this job without getting a lot of assurances. You're gonna have a lot to say. And he's the kind of coach who this time next year could have installed his own personnel man very easy. Or maybe he's made Ryan Poles a puppet by this time next year, but that is a real risk for Ryan Poles, is that he hired the guy who's going to then easily best him in a power struggle.
Raheem Morris said Kirk Cousins will be out on the field today, but the organization is operating with extreme caution when it comes to Kyle Pitts, who will not be out there.
Oh, my God.
There's a guy, I do believe it's Gary Treeman. His name's Gary Treeman on Twitter, who had the tweet that, if you say former first rounder whenever you get acquired, you are just absolutely terrible.
That's a really,
and it's someone, and actually may have been the same guy, tweeted when Kyle Pitts trade rumor started, this guy is a Hall of Fame quote former future first rounder.
Oh, I gotta steal that.
We gotta have. I'll tell you though, the very similar thing with the transfer portal where it's former top 100 recruit. Oh, yeah.
You even get it in the NFL draft, former 5-star recruit.
Yeah. I mean, the funny thing is that I think people got mad. The Eagles maybe had a draft conversation that was overheard by the team media where someone referred to Kyle McCord as a former 5-star. And people were like, those shouldn't be there. I actually disagree. As someone who, and I'm being serious here, as someone who follows recruiting, I think that 5-star, typically, with the way they test the guys now, it means you hit a height, weight, speed benchmark that is commensurate with the type of guy who's in the NFL. I think with the exception of the guys, there are some guys who need to gain 30 pounds or whatever to be a edge rusher. And if not, they have to play a different position. That's one thing. But 90% of the time, unless you're a actual real deal project, of which there are very few who are actually 5-stars, you probably belong in the NFL in some way. You can do a job. You can do a shift, as they say in football.
Yeah, if you're controlling for day 3 variables, former 5-star recruit is a really, really good one to bet on.
All right. Andrew Berry.
It's what do you even
This
say?
is the toughest one because he did a lot of things right and built a good roster and then made the worst move of the last decade.
And he probably didn't even make the move, and every bad move, all of his worst moves just reek of ownership. Even this year, the minor, you can't even say it's a bad move yet. There's no way he was taking Shedeur Sanders. There was quite literally no, one of my favorite 2025 NFL draft facts is that 0 quarterbacks were taken between Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. Yeah. And there was no way that was it is the most textbook ownership move you've ever seen in your entire life. The 5th round pick of Shedeur Sanders, which again, maybe it'll end up being a good pick. Maybe he should have taken him in the 3rd round, but it's emblematic of a man who does not have control of his own roster, which is unfortunate. But then as I put in the article, the bad moves your owner made doesn't make them good. Just because you didn't do it, it doesn't make them good.
Right.
And maybe he needs a new boss. If he actually is good, time to prove it, get a new boss. Work somewhere
else. The Dylan Gabriel pick was awful.
It was horrendous. Yes, that's true. Yeah, we do lose sight of that. we do lose sight of that one. No chance of ever being good in the NFL.
My big thing on Barry is the Watson the Watson trade was bad when he was good at football.
Yes.
Like we thought he was good at football, and I was still like, this is bad. This is not good. This is not going to work out. This is probably going to backfire, when we thought he was like the 8th best quarterback in football. Then it turns out he literally couldn't play.
No.
He just is incapable of playing, and it became the worst. I honestly think it's the worst move.
Maybe in sports history.
Right?
Did you know this was the first time in 4 years the Browns had a pick in the top 50? Like, you genuinely cannot have an NFL roster if you go 3 seasons without having a top 50 pick. Like,
all right, we got to hurry up, or else we're going to do a 3-hour podcast. Mickey Loomis at 21. I think he should be lower.
He was all over the map. I think at one point I had him like 18. I think at another point I had him 24. They don't really move around that much either. Like, typically the first order, the gut feel, you kind of end up sticking with. Mickey Loomis. Like, I don't know, man. Like, it's like, sure. Like, it's like a longevity, I guess, counts for something.
There's not a lot of talent there. The Derek Carr pick was kind of stupid. Now they're going to be absolutely awful. Arch Manning. Monti Ossenfort, that seems right. I think Monti will be higher after this year. I just think that, like, he's one of these guys that it feels like he's doing a little bit like Dan Morgan, where I'm like, hey, this is on track, but on track doesn't rank you above. I'm trying to think of someone.
Even Duke Tobin, even Jerry Jones.
Like Adam Peters. Yeah, Adam Peters is like in his first year won playoff games. You know, it's like it's there's on track and there's proof of concept, which Monti Ossenfort does not currently have, but they're doing well.
And Monty, but one line on Monty, he's in the terrible position. The only thing worse than not having a franchise quarterback is maybe having a franchise quarterback. And
right,
I just feel like they're paralyzed in stasis by the Kyler Murray.
Like the 17th best guy.
Yes.
Is not good. All right, Omar Khan.
Is he good? I have no idea. Can you
tell
me?
I don't know.
Can someone tell me? Please?
I don't know.
I have no idea.
I honestly, I don't, we can do it. Steelers fans, help me out.
I know,
but like,
someone help us out. We don't know.
I was looking at this draft stuff, and it's just, this team has been the same since before Omar Khan took the job. Kenny Pickett was, it seems like, a going away present from Kevin Colbert.
His attempt at a Lamar Jackson didn't work.
Yes, did not work. And so I kind of think you get an incomplete, and then we'll see what happens with Rodgers. But then again, Tomlin has so much power that it's like, what are we actually ascribing to Omar Khan?
I know it's truly impossible to say. And the only I think the unthinkable could finally happen next offseason, and the Steelers make changes. And Mike Tomlin needs to move on. Mike Tomlin needs to go somewhere else where someone else has built the base. He doesn't have all this baggage, and he can just like truly be the coach again. Like I feel like Mike Tomlin needs to move on just as much as the Steelers do.
Great aggregation topic there.
Yes, it's true.
June 10th. Chris Grier, probably a pretty good case for him to be lower.
Though, very strong case. Very strong, but he's 500 every year.
It is your list, Patrick.
It's true.
It is your list.
He has more wins than losses. They don't have a franchise quarterback, and they're in the mix every year. So there's a reason he's 18 or whatever, because he's probably bad. He's been kind of good. There's a slight chance he could be on a Jason Light career arc, I guess. But no one's looking at the Dolphins 53-man roster and saying it was the Bucs in 2020. So he's the most mediocre GM in the NFL, and he's ranked as such.
I just feel like, I said this on Mina's pod. You know, sometimes you're on podcasts, you accidentally stumble into something insightful. I said that I was talking about the Ravens and the Chiefs. I said a good front office doesn't let a problem linger for more than a season. And it feels like the Dolphins have had the same issues for
they do
many years.
Knew where you were going with that.
Many years. All right, Duke Tobin, Bengals, 17. Yeah, buddy.
I don't know, man. This is the I don't know, man range. It's the I don't know, man.
No, but
range.
I'm going to do quick on this because, again, I don't want to do a 10-part GM series here. But man, I just said the F word and I feel bad about it because now Miles has to bleep that for ESPN2 or ESPN New, whatever college baseball is putting us on this week. Imagine just putting on ESPN News, trying to get an update on some score, and then you just hear me just bleeping while I'm talking about Duke Tobin.
Or I see myself. I'm trying to find the Murray State game, and I see myself.
I think Murray State's pushing us to whatever ESPN Ocho will be on this month. Tobin obviously built something really special. Higgins, Chase, Burrow. Has not delivered on the O-line.
No.
And then the defensive picks who were supposed to save them have not been delivered either.
No. And the
so
Bengals,
what do you do on that? It's a top-heavy success rate. It
is. And the Bengals thing used to be, listen, they just follow the consensus draft board, and it somehow works out for them.
They draft big school players who are really famous. And the conspiracy theory, it was always that Mike Brown loved those guys because they played in big games and stuff. But then the more insidious conspiracy theory is that they don't have any scouts, and so they just draft from Notre Dame and USC.
I think I don't even know if it's really a conspiracy theory. I think it might just be easily true. It's kind of how it seems.
My friend, hey man, can we go to UCLA? No. No, you cannot go to UCLA, sir.
No.
Can we go? There's this really good player at Texas Tech. No.
He's a hard one to have an opinion on for so many different reasons, but especially the offensive line thing. Joe Burrow just might be the quarterback who likes to get sacked, where even if he fixes the offensive line, like anything short of like 3 all-pros, it might not really matter because Burrow is one of the QBs who likes to take sacks. So it's kind of like, what do I even say? His biggest problem is the offensive line, but I'm not even convinced that if he addressed it like successfully that it would matter. So Duke Tobin's a weird guy.
Jerry Jones, 16. That seems right. I don't even want to do much on this. Joe Ortiz with the Chargers, 15th. See, this is where I'm going to get mad at you. I don't understand what Joe Ortiz has done that your Dan Morgans and your Monti Ossenforts. I think the Chargers are on track. But again, until I see proof of concept of something special, better than what I saw from the previous regime, he's in the low 20s to me.
Well, Joe Ortiz, he picked the right boss for one, too.
Yeah.
And about proof of concept,
the boss picked him.
The Chargers are just doing their proof of concept. Jim Harbaugh proof of concept, draft and develop. That's been the Chargers' focus for 2 years. I feel like they have a good plan and they're sticking with it.
I hate to be negative. George Paton with the Broncos is better than Kwesi with the Vikings.
I've had these guys going back and forth. Kwesi, extremely difficult one to rank. The
team is good, but I think that a lot of that's Kevin O'Connell. They've missed on huge draft picks. Over and over. The Broncos are on track to be one. You want to talk about the Jason Licht track? George Paton is on the Jason Licht track because he's just stacking good picks over and over and over again. They have talent everywhere. They could have had 3 Defensive Player of the Year candidates last year. They're just awesome.
Kwesi's a weird one because my write-up on him was slightly more negative too until they extended him, where I basically said, it's crazy, but this time next year, Kevin O'Connell could be picking his own personnel man. Then they extended Kwesi. So I had to change it to maybe in the future that will happen. But yeah, Kwesi's a guy, he's a big moves guy and hasn't gotten many of them right. The draft.
I do think JJ McCarthy's good, but that part of that's because Kevin O'Connell probably was like, he's good.
Pounding the table.
Take him. Nick Caserio to me should be lower than 12.
Well, Caserio and Kwesi.
I feel so bad that this show has become me combing through your list and being like, you are bad.
Well, you can see how hard this is. It's like
it's top heavy. He hit on Stroud, he hit on Will Anderson. But to me, the Caserio eval is going to come after this year. Because did you fix the offensive line, which we know was a glaring problem? Did you hit on one of those Iowa State receivers that's going to help CJ Stroud this year? Like, to me, this is the year. This is Nick Caserio's biggest year by far.
It is. And this is why this exercise is so imperfect and difficult, because you cannot completely disregard the results. And the results have been back-to-back 10-7 division championships, win a playoff game both years. You can't just ignore that. But do I think that was probably a fluke? I kind of do. But I can't just say, like, I have to be humble enough that, I might not understand all of this. I might not know all the dynamics of play, like what's really going on. So that's why I can't just straight up ignore things like Nick Caserio's roster winning back-to-back wild card rounds.
All right, we're going to quickly go through the top 11 here. Adam Peters, Commanders. Jason Licht, Bucks. John Schneider with the Seahawks at 9. That's one I disagree with. I think he should be lower. I just think he's been on a cold streak for a long time, and we'll see. He bet big on athleticism this year, which he did 13 years ago, and ended up with a bunch of gold jackets and a Super Bowl. So we'll see if that turns out well, but it's been a pretty bad cold streak. So
I think they're sort of rebuilding the base. I think they're kind of getting back to Seahawks fundamentals, I'll say, where they're making a lot of draft picks. No one can accuse them of not making a lot of draft picks. He made the right coaching hire too, which is important.
Yeah, but I need to see proof of concept with that, and I need to see Sam Darnold. Not like really.
It's not happening.
All right, McDermott and Bean with the Bills, fine. Shanahan, Lynch, fine. Brad Holmes and Brian Gutekunst. You have Goody 5, Holmes 6. I just think from where they started, Holmes is better than Goody. Holmes has created a better team, just 1-to-1. I think Goody, his team might have the better season this year. I think Holmes deserves a top 5 spot over Goody. Defend it.
It was very hard. So Holmes, we have to see him make the transition now. We're like, can he do it with easy mode off? Which of course it's not easy when you're rebuilding the most barren roster. Theo Epstein level turnaround for the Lions, but he did it with elite draft capital, all that, like no pressure, blah, blah, blah. Now he's in the DaCosta zone, the Andy Reid zone, where every year you're picking in the 26 to 30 range of the draft. Will it fall apart now that he actually has to build like an elite team? And Goody, like he's already made the transition. He made a quarterback transition, very difficult. He kept the best of Ted Thompson, where like talk about draft pick accumulation, 35 picks from 2022 to 2024. But unlike Ted Thompson, he occasionally actually signs a free agent. Very clear vision. It works. They win at least 10 or 11 games every year. It is weird. He needs the Flyers are not translating to the amount of high-end talent that you would think from that sheer volume of pick. I feel like maybe he's been a little unlucky that more of his Flyers have not panned out. But Goody, he's a weird one, but he's clearly on to something. The track record's long enough at this point, like 7 or 8 years, where I feel like he deserves some benefit of the doubt.
I think he's a great GM. I just think what Brad Holmes did is really special.
This is the year for Holmes. You said this is the year for Caserio. I think this is the year for Holmes. Like, he's got a different set of problems now. And that's always a tough transition for a GM. He solved the first era. Now he's in the second era. How does he handle the transition from era 1 to era 2 of his executiveship? So
our top 4 is basically the same. DaCosta, McVay, Snead, Reed, Veach, Roseman, number 1. That's about the same. I was going to ask you, I guess the answer is Howie. Like, if all 32 owners had to choose a guy to run their team, do you think Howie's the first pick?
He has to be, because as I put in the write-up, the Eagles are the only organization where the unquestioned most important person in the entire org is the GM. I feel like they have to be the only. Well,
they had, what was it, like 42 pressures and no blitzes or whatever the hell it was in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm sure some of that's Fangio and I'm sure some of that's but it's like, you know what that is? That's getting dogs on the defensive line and then getting good cornerbacks, and the trenches and the cornerbacks working together to where you're in the backfield every single play. That's Howie Roseman. That's not anybody else. I did my whole post Super Bowl pod on this is Howie's Super Bowl. And I don't think a GM has ever had that much influence on a Super Bowl run. I don't think it's ever happened. And like, maybe I'm being unfair to Nick Sirianni, but I don't think I am. I think that as much as we were laughing earlier about like Ryan Poles' career being made by Ben Johnson and some of these other guys, where it's like the coach Mike Vrabel is going to help Elliott Wolf's employment or not, we'll see. But like, if I could go coach for anybody right now, it'd be Nick Sirianni because he's sorry, Nick Sirianni. I would love to be Nick Sirianni's quarterbacks coach. I'd love that. No, I maybe tight ends. Maybe I'll start at tight ends. Played a little tight end in high school. It would be Howie Roseman because he's going to get you the best guys. And what's funny is DaCosta. I put the Chiefs in a different bucket, but DaCosta and Roseman both have the same thing, which is every single year someone slips them at 24. And we go, oh, how'd this happen? Like the other day, reading the Malachi Starks transcripts from the last couple of weeks, and DaCosta was like, he's wired like a raven. And it's like, well, why is the NFL let all these guys who are wired like ravens play for the Baltimore Ravens? Why can't the Browns get some Ravens? Why can't the Jets get some Ravens?
No, the Ravens, by the way. So I write about early theme in the article about when you're an elite franchise, you just got an entirely different set of problems because the cap space is usually limited and the draft capital is even more limited. Where bad organizations all the time fall prey to like silver bullet thinking. The Terry Fontenot one move, this one weird trick is going to save the franchise. Whereas in that position, it's never about one move. Whereas these elite teams, you frequently really only get one meaningful move per offseason a lot of times. And so you have to nail them. Eric DaCosta nails his, quote, one move more than anyone in the league. That's what makes
But the one move is always like, let's get a safety to put next to Kyle Hamilton, who's not absolute dog crap. But the point is you don't want great franchises to get great moves because you don't have to be desperate. You can just sit there back and just say, all right, we'll take this, we'll take this. And like, did you see the draft video where they took Starks? Did you see that?
I have
it was
not.
Floating around.
I need to.
And it was just like so casual. And DaCosta had the two heads of scouting come and was just like, and comparing two safeties. I think people were theorizing, they didn't say it. The other safety was Nick Imanwari. And they were just like, hey, what do you want to do here? And I'm like, I don't know. Like,
take the Raven.
Stark's a lot better. So it's not even close. So we should just do that. And it was like, okay. And it was like, so thought out, like it was so, of course we're going to do this, right? And I think are you familiar with the great men theory of history?
Oh yeah.
Where basically like a bunch of people believe that like the world is defined by heroes. That is not how you should operate as a GM.
No.
And I think there's too many GMs who are like, this is my moment where I'm going to change the franchise.
Terry Fontenot thinks he's Winston Churchill.
I don't think that Eric DaCosta or Howie Roseman or Brett Veach are ever like this. They're going to make a movie out of this. No. They're going to make a 10-part Last Dance style movie where I'm played by, I was going to say Brad Pitt, but that's not even in vogue anymore.
No,
Timothy Chalamet.
Exactly.
And it's going to be about me trading for James Pierce. I'd be surprised if Chalamet played Terry Fontenot, but maybe.
He's got a lot of range.
All right, we should leave it there.
Well, do you know who my number one GM was according to the Google AI summary?
Hold on. Tell me.
My Google AI summary said my number one GM was Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, in part because of their shrewd moves, like trading up for Trey Lance. This was the Google AI summary of my 2025 art. Well, of course, I never wrote that even in 2021.
Well, no, so I tweeted this earlier, but I was on TV the other day and I needed to Google the details of a trade. And so I Googled, I honestly don't even remember what it was. It was maybe the Deebo Samuel trade. So there's a Google AI summary that was like, here are the big trades of 2025. And the first one was the Raiders traded Khalil Mack to the Browns. And then it had this like whole analysis about how shrewd this move was. And I'm sitting there and it's one of those things where
you're
I had
on
to
TV, you're trying to.
Well, no, I had to take no, it was before, thank God. But like 5 seconds, I just spent like 5 seconds being like, this didn't happen, right? Like this didn't, I didn't miss that he like went to the Raiders last year and then the Browns, like he's still on the Chargers, right? It's still, Khalil Mack's being on the Chargers for this long is like third teams for star players. It's never like this.
No.
The fact that he's been on for 3 productive years.
That's insane.
And next year he will have played for the Chargers for as long as he played for the Raiders is astounding.
That actually sounds like an AI hallucination to me.
Can I give you an AI hallucination that I stumbled upon yesterday? Juan Pierre only played for the Marlins for 3 seasons.
No, stop.
Yeah. He came back in 2013, so that was technically his 4th, but he was only there from 03, 04, and 05. He was on the Rockies before that.
Not even kidding. He would ask me how many years the first Juan Pierre, I would have said 7 or 8 for sure.
20. Even Jeff Conine or Mr. Marlin. Exactly. He only played 3 years in his initial run for the Marlins. He was traded to the Cubs in December 2005.
We're losing recipes.
Also, I thought he played for the Dodgers for way longer. He didn't. He played 3 seasons there.
I can picture him in a very baggy Dodgers jersey.
Well, also the Dodgers' whole thing back then was like Carl Crawford. It was like taking the contracts nobody else wanted of like decent players who would get like
Adrian Gonzalez
1.5 WAR.
Yep, that was that they had a big idea on how to jumpstart their rebuild. It went a lot better than a lot of these NFL teams.
Well, no, I think they changed that model.
No, they did. I'm saying when they got rich again, so that the Dodgers, who were somehow not rich under Frank McCourt, when they got rich again, they knew eventually they were going to be like the analytics team, but to like jumpstart the rebuild, like what if we just get a bunch of expensive players other teams don't want? And that is how they got the ball rolling on the Dodgers we now know, and I was going to say love, but I hate.
But enough about the University of Miami football team. All right. Talk to you soon, buddy.
Thank you as always.